We're live on the next round. It is a historic day in the Southeastern Conference. We have never seen so much coaching movement in such a short period of time as we saw today. Alex Golesh is the new coach, confirmed for the Auburn Tigers. They have announced him. Lane Kiffin, the new coach at LSU, confirmed. They have announced him. Pete Golding is his replacement at Ole Miss, confirmed. They have announced him. Jon Sumrall, friend of the show, the new coach at the Florida Gators. They have announced him. And Ryan Silverfield, the new coach of the Arkansas Razorbacks, 5 coaching jobs in the Southeastern Conference, filled in the matter of hours. I'll start with you, Lance Taylor. It's a pretty crazy day when you consider that.
Hey, this was so simple, right? We thought this was going to be a wild coaching cycle, and the big fallout job was going to be Ole Miss. And I brought it up to you guys a couple of days ago. Why is Pete Golding not in this mix? Because that was one name you never heard when it came to the Ole Miss job if Lane Kiffin was in fact going to take the LSU job, which he ultimately did. But boy, all these pieces fell into place. And I guess the only thing really sitting out there, unless something wild happens that we don't know about, is Penn State.
Yeah. That one is still out there, by the way, Dunaway. Penn State, awful quiet right now while everybody else in the world is filling their coaching jobs today.
Yeah, another one opens up with Michigan State today as well. So that continues to churn a little bit. But and I'm excited for Jon Sumrall at Florida. I think he, after the Lane Kiffin move, was the top choice in a lot of places. Our graphic doesn't have, ironically, Lane Kiffin on it. He was sort of the linchpin to all 4 of those guys there, right?
He's right there at the bottom.
Lane. Well, who
yeah, that's Lane. You got Kiffin, Golesh. The one we don't have is Pete Golding.
Is Golding? That's right. Okay.
Yeah,
so I knew it was 5. So that is 4.
Golding hired after the graphics department had finished.
Golding had. You remember his initial picture when he went from UTSA to Alabama to work for Nick Saban? It looked like a composite picture fraternity.
Oh yeah.
The hair going everywhere.
Yeah. Well, the one I saw earlier today had him still with the bushy look with the hat turned around backwards with sweat everywhere. So he's a no-nonsense guy that we loved when we were coaching the A-Day game, and just his atmosphere and his attitude inside the locker room. But, boy, everybody waiting on Lane Kiffin. And I guess he was always going to LSU. What is funny and what we'll see happen as this day progresses and we get into tomorrow is the ultimatum he gave the offensive staff. If you're not on the plane with me today, you don't have a job. And Pete Golding and Ole Miss trying to keep all those guys there in Oxford, overpaying them to stay there. That's fascinating to me. Now, that doesn't mean Lane won't be successful at LSU, because Nick Saban got on a plane, sent the plane back to Michigan State, to East Lansing, and get all of his assistants, and just one guy got on the plane and came. They all stayed at Michigan State. So none of them have to go with Lane down to LSU for LSU to be successful. But it is funny if if Charlie Weiss, if running back coach Kevin Smith, wide receiver coach George McDonald, if Joe Judge, if they all stay with Pete Golding and take more money and stay at Ole Miss and coach this playoff run and don't go with Lane down to LSU, it'll be interesting to see the staff that Lane puts together right then. But yeah, fascinating just watching the Kiffin thing play out, and then how that churned into Summerall all of a sudden being at Florida and not Auburn, because we thought he was going to be at Auburn. And then Golish, who was reported going to Arkansas, ends up getting the better job at Auburn. And that gives Ryan Silverfield a chance to get out of Memphis and go to Arkansas, all starting with the Kiffin domino.
Yeah, I think we all kind of agreed when Florida started to flirt with Jon Sumrall, it was kind of over for Jon Sumrall to Auburn. He was never going to take Auburn in front of Florida. But Lane Kiffin, I think there is a better chance that we look back at this situation one day and we're like, why in the hell was he holding everybody hostage? Then we look back and we're like, damn, he was well worth all of this, that he, ultimately wins a national championship.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think there is potential, as we saw. I mean, everyone thought Brian Kelly was a home run. So there is potential that Lane Kiffin leaves a 11-1 playoff team with a chance to win a national championship and never gets an opportunity to get LSU to the level he had Ole Miss this year. That's in play, because it's not always successful when you make a change.
Yeah, and I'll address this. For some reason, YouTube launched us in a different format. So those of you watching on YouTube, you're seeing us look awful strange, and I don't know why that happened. That is a YouTube oddity. We look good everywhere else. We can see everybody. We're just super up close. So Make sure your nose is clean. Let's talk about Alex Golish, the Auburn. Don't get any closer. The Auburn hire, Alex Golish. So Dunaway, you were at Jordan-Hare Stadium last night for Alabama's win in the Iron Bowl. It started bubbling a little bit there. You were telling me earlier. You told us in the group chat on the way home last night, hey guys, I think it's going to be Alex Golish. Yeah. So that kind of started bubbling. And he passed DJ Durkin at some point yesterday, it appeared.
Yeah, all the people that cover Auburn on a day in and day out basis, by the time I made it out of the Alabama locker room and back down to the other end of the field and was packing up my bag, they all were talking about, hey, it looks like it's going to be Alex Golish. And I was like, wow, really? So it's going to be Golish. And they were like, yeah, it's not 100%, but that's the name to keep an eye on tomorrow. And, we knew about the team meeting already and that it was going to be announced. And I don't know about you guys, keeping DJ Durkin on this roster is very important because of the roster retention is what Auburn really needs right now. So they don't reset the clock back to pre-Hugh Freeze time and have to start the rebuild all over. You want to keep the roster, keep things going. So if you keep DJ Durkin, you're not going to keep everybody because that's just doesn't happen in college football anymore. But you keep a core group of this great players that you have at Auburn, and then you start the rebuild with Golish. And I guess it looks like Durkin is all in on Golish, and Golish is all in on Durkin. At least that's the way it looks, anyway.
Well, that's good news, and I would assume at that point because the fear was you get Durkin so far down the line that he believes he's going to be the next guy. That maybe he almost takes it as, it takes offense to the fact that, wait, you're going to bring in this guy and I'm not going to get the opportunity now. But, I would assume that they're going to pay him the most money for a coordinator in the SEC. Pete Golding is that guy right now at 2.5. Obviously, Pete Golding's getting a raise being the next head coach at Ole Miss. Blake Baker, 2.5 million with LSU. I think it's a pat on the back to tell DJ Durkin how important you are to stay here, to, have some stability for the program moving forward. And, hey, we're going to make you the highest paid coordinator in the SEC.
Yeah, I'm with you 100%. I think DJ Durkin all along was the guy that was a necessity to anybody that is going to take the Auburn job. You're keeping DJ Durkin. That was the reports. There are people who were saying that was an issue for Sumrall, not that he wanted to keep Durkin, but that he just didn't want it crammed down his throat. So Alex Golish is a guy that you would assume has said, hey, listen, I've probably never had a defensive coordinator as good as DJ Durkin. I'll take him. Now, will these two styles mesh? It's hard to be a defensive coordinator for Josh Heupel. Wouldn't you agree with that?
Yeah. I mean, with the pace and everything, It absolutely is. But, I don't know if Auburn fans are concerned with this. I mean, this is a guy that really, earned his stripes under Matt Campbell, earlier in Toledo, a little bit at Iowa State, and then Josh Heupel from Central Florida to Tennessee. And he loves an up-tempo offense. And look, I mean, the proof is literally in the pudding. When you look at how bad South Florida was before he took this over, his first two seasons, they were 33rd in scoring offense. This year, 5th in total offense, almost 500 yards a game, and 4th in scoring offense, over 42 points per game. So if you like offense, and I think this is big when you look at guys like Cam Coleman, and when you look at Deuce Knight, and you look at Eric Singleton, and you look at Malcolm Simmons, you want to try to retain these guys. It's got to be exciting when you bring in a guy like Golish, where you're going to be, at least the goal is 40-plus points a game.
Can we just address, do you have to have beating Alabama somewhere in your resume to get the job at Auburn these days? Big win in 2022 as a coordinator at Tennessee with Josh Heupel, beating Alabama and Nick Saban and Bryce Young in that big game up there. And everyone raves about that offense. But the fact of the matter is that offense is 9-3 this year with a really talented quarterback in Byron Brown. And that's another thing to watch. Byron Brown, does he come? I know this is 4 years of him playing, but in 2022, he only played 4 games. And in 2024, he played 5 games. And I think it was shortened because of an injury. I'm sure in today's age, there's at least 1 year of eligibility out there for him. Does he come in? What do you do with Deuce Knight then? Ashton Daniels, does Deuce Knight, Ashton Daniels sort of fit what Golish wants to do anyway? That's a fascinating twist of this as well. But I don't know about you guys, but if you stack up Alex Golish and Jon Sumrall, to me, I don't think Auburn got the better of the two coaches. Time will tell, but I think Florida won that battle there. And I like Golesh more than I do Ryan Silverfield. I wasn't excited about him being in the mix at Auburn, but Alex Golesh, that offense at Tennessee, what what's it won? I mean, it made it to the playoffs last year. Not too good this year. I don't know. They had a
Well,
I mean, and this guy Golesh was a big part of making Hendon Hooker look the way he looked that year. But
Well, look, it was a swing and a miss for me last year because I said that South Florida was going to represent the Group 5, and they went 7-6, and they had every opportunity. And I guess that might be a frustrating thing when you look back. If you're a South Florida fan, as you're up 17 on Memphis, you blow that game. You're a favorite against Navy. You end up losing that game, but he still was 9-3. And the only thing I would say, and I do think Sumrall's a better coach. I think Florida gets an A coach or an A hire. And again, we'll see how this plays out over the next couple of years. I said that about Brian Kelly, and look how that worked out. I think this is a B plus hire. I like Golesh a lot. I've been a Golesh fan since he took the South Florida job. I think he took over a more difficult situation. They were 4-29 the 3 seasons before Golesh got there. Willie Fritz had Tulane in a much better situation for Jon Sumrall. I do think Sumrall's the better coach, but Golesh had a much more difficult rebuild than he did.
And that's fair. That's a fair comment right there, because when you take over, like that stat floating around that Kalen DeBoer and Nick Saban have the same number of wins at this point, right? 19 wins, whatever it is. Well, I mean, obviously, Nick Saban, when he took over at Alabama, it looked a little different, right? Than it does when Kalen DeBoer took over. So it did look different for Alex Golesh than it did for Jon Sumrall. My belief is that offense, it's time will tell if it can finish the deal and win a championship because of what Brown pointed out of what it does to your defense.
Real quick, the graphics department heard you, Dunaway, so they've got an update. There's the fifth go. We got Pete Golding on.
Yeah.
Give Golding his due.
That's on me. That's on my eyesight. I thought with my eyesight, I honestly I thought the guy in the far left was Golesh.
Yeah, so, Pete's there. So we got all 5. Yeah. We got all 5 today. Great work by Scott Forrester, Tyler Johns, and Brooks Carter today. The back room working on a Sunday as well. I think the ultimate question is Alex Golesh better than DJ Durkin? And I had one of the bigger Auburn fans I know text me when it's 17-0, and he said, would you explain to me again why we're trying to keep this roster together? And I mean, I think it's a legitimate question. A lot of people, you got to keep this roster together. Got to keep this roster together. This roster went 5-7. So, I didn't really understand that, but I think that's the ultimate question. Is Golesh a better hire than DJ Durkin? And I would say absolutely.
Yeah, I would say absolutely too. Absolutely.
I would say this, that roster is 5-7 because of the quarterback position. That roster is a lot more talented than the play they got at quarterback. And you saw last night, I mean, forget all the drops. I mean, Auburn's great receiving core had so many drops last night when Ashton Daniels hit them in the hands. But when they were open, sometimes the passes were, wide and outside or wide and inside, and the guys were having to do anything. So, when you're having to dive to make catches that should be hitting you in the hands, when they do hit you in the hands, sometimes you're shocked because you're ready to dive for it and it actually hits you in the hands. So I think if Auburn had better quarterback play this year, this roster wouldn't be 5-7. Heck, they were close to winning so many games anyway. So, and back to DJ Durkin, for that team to rally back from 17-0 last night, I thought that was a compliment. And, I know we're going to talk on Monday Morning Live in the next round about the actual Iron Bowl itself, but for Kalen DeBoer to go for it on 4th and 2 and not kick the go-ahead field goal, that's because the belief was in that place, let's try to win the game and not just take the field goal here and allow Auburn to go down there and win the game 27-23, which is what it felt like it was going to happen, right?
Yeah,
that it was going to be 27-23 if Alabama didn't go for it. And even on the touchdown, when they're driving before the Cam Coleman fumble, I was asked on the sidelines during the timeout, if they score, do you think they're going to go for 2?
Oh, yeah.
I said, he's going to go for 2.
100%.
And then that way he can walk into the locker room and says, look, at Auburn, we play to win the game. And that was just going to be awesome that they had a chance to win it, didn't win it. And I thought it would have been a rallying point for him to be the head coach. But as we learn now, you don't go into that game and somewhere in the third quarter decide, okay, let's work out a contract with Alex Golesh. For that to be bubbling at the end, this was already in the works before we even got to the Iron Bowl.
Yeah. So look, if they were waiting on that, yeah, like you said, it was already in the works. And I think we've talked about it, at length. You don't hire a guy based on one game and what the outcome of that one game is. And I just think Alex Golesh, a guy that has already proven himself that he can build a program. Look, it's going to be different what he did in Tampa to what he's got to do, down on the plains. Obviously, as difficult as the American can be at that level. The SEC is a new beast altogether, but he has recruited. He's coached in this league. He's recruited the state of Florida, which is a fertile ground for Auburn. And I think if you've got any chance of bringing Cam Coleman back, I think Alex Golesh was, DJ Durkin would have given you an opportunity too, but I think this is the next best thing.
I'll say two things about him. One, you mentioned the recruiter. He's also just he's a dog of a person. Some people, if you're not a fan of him, could call him a different name, but he's a bulldog. I mean, he's not going to back down to anybody. When he played Alabama close twice, and he wasn't backing down even in his pregame comments and his postgame comments. He's got a little, like Jon Sumrall, a little gravitas, a little bulldog in him that I think you need in the SEC. So he's not going to back down from the challenge. And then you mentioned building a program. His prowess on the recruiting trail. I think it was Justin Hokanson, Auburn Live, who writes that he is a very hands-on recruiter, very, very much like Nick Saban. Some head coaches, I'm not going to name names, but some head coaches let other people handle the recruiting. Not Golesh. Golesh is very hands-on. I don't know I'm sure they'll have a general manager, so to speak, but he's not the kind of guy that's just going to let somebody else be the general manager. He's going to go in there and be very hands-on in recruiting. And that's what you need to be, I believe, in nowadays as a head coach. You need to have a great general manager, but you also need to be a relationship builder to keep this roster as much as you can intact. And Golesh is that.
So that's Alex Golesh to Auburn. Let's hit on these others before we get out of here. Lance, I know you've always had strong opinions on Lane Kiffin. I don't think it's a surprise to anyone, obviously, that he's the head coach at LSU today. The way it all went down is vintage Lane Kiffin. Maximum drama, maximum narcissism, maximum, whatever you want to say that's a bad adjective. That was what happened today, apparently, in Oxford.
Yeah, I've been saying it for years. You guys believe me now, right?
Oh, I do. No, listen, I think Lane, I think he's maybe a little better coach than you give him credit for, but Lane, the person, that's not the guy you want leading your program.
No, not at all. And for him to give the ultimatum, who's supposed to coach these kids? Like, I understand that you're butthurt because they didn't want you to be able to coach throughout the playoffs. And, when that doesn't go your way, look, you laid it out. You made your decision. You've got to live with what their decision is on the other side of that. But you've got to be fair to your kids, too. Like, you wanted to coach them. You're not allowed to, but now you're not going to allow potential guys on your staff to coach them. The way he went out, this will go down in history. It's just amazing because of the things he did for that program. And obviously, Ole Miss did a lot for him, getting him this job. But for him to burn the bridges that he burned, and now when you look back, what is his approval rating right now in Oxford? He could have handled this thing. Yep. You guys saw the release from I think it was the director of ops, or it was somebody involved with South Florida at a high level about Alex Golish. That's the kind of release you want when you walk away from a school. And it's the complete opposite right now. And hey, man, he duped me because, this whole Lane is mature. The conversation, I think it was with Marty Smith in the offseason. I was like, damn, this sounds like a new Lane Kiffin. I'm all about this guy. He can obviously coach, and we'll see if he can put all this together. But it's all about Lane. That's all he cares about. Always wants to make it a spectacle, calling out reporters, calling out ADs. It's just, I wouldn't want him as my coach ever. And I've had him as my coach before. And I told you.
That's true. You've lived it. Yeah.
Yeah. I would tell you this. I love a great t-shirt, sweatshirt opportunity. I love Barstool already has the Ho. Remember the old Obama poster face t-shirt?
Yeah.
They've got the Lane Kiffin face with Ho. On the top, not spelled H-O, by the way, not the holiday ho. So they've got that gear already out there, and they've got a not suitable for work version with the LSU chant on it as well, replacing some words there with the word ho as well. So
I can't believe how
the drama around him is tremendous, and I'm with you on the ultimatum to the coaching staff. If you really care about the kids,
yep.
You take the general manager, Billy Glasscock, with you, and you tell that coaching staff, You stay here with our guys as long as you keep playing, because that's our team, and y'all go do the best you can for our guys. And Billy and I are going to go on to LSU, and we're going to hold the fort down there, and we're going to start working and laying the groundwork. And when you guys are done trying to win a championship with our guys, come on and join us in Baton Rouge. Any of you that want to come with me, we're going to save a place for you down there. And I'm going to get some analysts to be helping, some secretaries, some hot yoga assistants, whatever we need. We're going to be working in Baton Rouge while you guys coach our team the rest of the way. I wish I could be there, but they're not going to let me do that. But I'm all in on you guys winning, and y'all stay there and coach. We'll save a job for you instead of, you better be on the plane with me this afternoon or you don't have a place. That's the wrong way to go out.
I would absolutely love to see Ole Miss make a deep run and win a national championship now, but I'm sure Kiffin would take credit, right?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, he'd show up and be on the sideline as close as they'll let him. On the sideline, on the TV broadcast, on the halftime set. Yes, he'd be all over it.
Well, we got a question. I forget who wrote it. Maybe it was Brad on Twitter who asked the three of us, who wins a playoff game first, Lane or Pete Golding? And I said, Pete Golding this year. He'll win.
Yeah, he's going to coach one.
Game.
Yeah,
he'll win that first round game.
Yeah, he may get a home game. I don't know what the committee's going to do with this. I mean, Lance and Jim, I mean, if he takes the whole offensive staff, you at least, I mean, they made a very quick move with Pete Golding, and good for Pete. We all like Pete Golding. I'm glad he's the head coach, and it may be a tremendous hire. Who knows? But make no mistake, that was to show we've got this thing under control. We've got our guy, College Football Playoff Committee. You pretend none of this ever happened. We've got a head coach.
Yeah. And to me, if Charlie Weiss and those other guys stay, and I have not, since we started this, I haven't been paying attention on who got on the plane, who didn't get on the plane. But I know Ole Miss was trying to double salaries to keep the offensive staff in place permanently with Pete Golding. If they all stay, I think that's a referendum on the way they felt about Lane and how he handled this down the stretch as well. And then at that point, that's pretty good for Ole Miss moving forward, I think, with that collective, that NIL, that coaching staff still intact. Without Lane Kiffin as the head, it could end up, it'd be like cutting me out of this group up here. The other five of you may be better off without me at that point. They may be better off without Lane. They may get into this thing and realize that Lane's circus is what was keeping Ole Miss from reaching its potential.
Yeah, I'm not ready to say that. We've seen the history of Ole Miss football, and it's been an awful history. So, there was something about Lane Kiffin and the attitude and the guys that he brought in, and there was a swagger, to a point that was really, really good and what Ole Miss was able to achieve. So I'm pulling for Pete Golding. I hope he's able to keep this thing together, but I don't think it's going to be what it once was. I don't see Ole Miss just continuing to win double-digit games every year.
It'll be interesting to see what Pete Golding's numerical contract looks like, and then how much else is going to the assistant coaches. Because back to the Auburn situation, and again, this is Justin Hokinson's reporting at Auburn Live. The contract is supposedly 6 years, $7.4 million. We'll get that tomorrow officially. But when he gets to 9 wins, it's another $1.5 million. And if he wins 12, it's as high as $12.5 million. So it's strictly, once you get to that 8th win, every win after that is like you're getting every win's $1.5 million.
I love it. I love incentive-based contracts, which we don't have anymore. I think NIL should be more of that. I think head coaching should be more of that. You know what you're going to get with Golesh you didn't get with Hugh Freeze? A hungry coach.
Yeah, no doubt.
Not only does he want to build something special at Auburn, but he's incentivized, financially to get like a massive contract if he wins those games. And I did find the 9-win number was really interesting. That's when the money really jumps up because these recent coaches hadn't been able to get 9 wins.
Hey, man, let me ask you this. Could you take Brownie like, okay, I get 1.5 million a win when I get to 9-10. Could I just say, all right, $1 million for me, and we're going to divvy up the 500,000 to you guys on the roster, and I'll give you guys the other 500,000, and we'll get to game number 10. I'll take the $1 million. You guys make it like the UFL.
I don't. Yeah, I know.
$500,000 every time we win a game.
It's a great idea, but in a lot of states, I think NIL deals can't be performance based, and I believe you have crossed the line there. to performance based at that
But
point.
maybe behind the scenes you can.
Yeah,
do that.
yeah, maybe
What
that's
if we
the
made it
under
a
the
lottery,
table.
Brownie? What if we
Yeah.
made it a lottery and they could draw a ball out of the bucket for the money?
Matt Zenitz did report that Charlie Weiss hit one of the planes there. So Charlie was like, I ain't getting left behind. I
Dude,
don't,
Charlie's nose is always in Lane's ass, so that's not surprising.
Yeah. Charlie just didn't need Lane to stop too quick in the aisle.
Yeah,
So Charlie
I'd like
Weiss
to know
on
who
his way.
Charlie's agent is, because you think he worked out a deal a little bit there. Hey, they're offering me double to stay here. What do you think?
Man, this is like, I don't know about you guys. Have you ever seen players flip as quickly as these players have flipped? Because there's a report out there that the leadership council, they walked out of the meeting with Kiffin.
Well, they tried reaching out to him, and apparently Lancey ghosted them. So they went to his house. That was according to Neil McCrady's outfit over there. Is that the leadership council? They were texting him overnight, and this morning he completely shut them down, ghosted them. So they went to his house. They are to the complex, one of the two. Maybe it was the complex. Went to the complex to try to track him down. Yeah, that turned quick, and I mean, it's hard to blame them, isn't it? This is the biggest moment of their life, and now it's been hijacked. And look, I know Lane, he's well within his right to take another job, but the way he's played this thing out, I saw it was perfect. I don't know if y'all saw the Brett McMurphy tweet. He said one agent told him Lane Kiffin's the only guy in the world that will burn a bridge he's still trying to stand on.
Yeah.
Such a good line.
Yeah, but I assume he runs is it Juice Kiffin, his dogs?
Yes. How insulting to Ole Miss fans.
Yeah, when you put the screenshot of the Georgia Mercedes-Benz field with Ole Miss on there against Georgia in the SEC, any dogs allowed in here, and you send that out while you're still toying with the decision, apparently. That's I saw that when I was at Jordan Hare, and I thought to myself, well, you can't send that out and leave, right? That's sort of an indicator you're staying.
That's the other side of, this swagger. I look, and I've said it, I've admitted it. Look, I mean, for my age, I'm still very immature, but I'm not the face of a program. I'm not the guy that is building up and building character and getting these guys ready for life. That is the last guy that I want as my head coach, is Lane Kiffin.
Hey, real quick before we move on to Jon Sumrall at Florida, right now, Kalen DeBoer is talking to the media on the SEC championship game teleconference. He was asked about Ryan Williams, which I don't know that he was asked post-game about that. I don't know, Jim, if you were in the post-game or not.
He was not asked about Ryan Williams while I was in there.
Okay.
I had gone out on the field to get some stuff, and I came back, and I just know watching Ryan Williams, he was not full speed all night long.
Yeah. So when asked about it, Kalen DeBoer said, quote, "There's nothing to read into there." And then he went on to say, Ryan Williams, he just didn't get the target Saturday. The ball found other guys. They need to be intentional getting a playmaker like him the ball. So,
I mean, something's up. You can't run 20 routes in the game. I don't know how many total offensive plays he played, but 0 targets. I mean, it's one thing, decoy. He's not 100%, but something there's something more there.
Yeah. It looked to me, and I'm no doctor. It looked to me like, like he, how you would try to play through the flu or stomach bug or something like that. That's what it looked like to me. Like he wasn't physically feeling well, and just was not having a great game. But he has missed. He's been out of, not really in the mix on some games all year long, and they were really taking Germ out of the mix defensively. They were scheming for 5. For 2, I think they did pretty straight up on 2. So
Isaiah Horton said, "I'll be right here."
Yeah, call me if you need me.
Yeah, call me if you need me. I'll be right here.
Alabama, I'm right here. Jim Miller, though, is lower body injury. I would be shocked if we see him in Atlanta. I don't know if Kalen has addressed that yet.
He has not, but he has addressed Josh Cuevas, and he says it is doubtful that he'll be with Alabama and Atlanta. And boy, was there ever a drop off at tight end behind Cuevas? Oof.
When's the last time we saw Alabama shorthanded in Atlanta against Georgia?
They won it.
Yeah, they won the game.
Hey, Lance, were you surprised how small the number came out?
Yeah, a little bit. I got a text earlier this morning. Hey, what do you think it is, 4.5 or 5? And I was like, nah, it's probably going to be 3, though. I think Georgia probably will be 3 because, let's not forget, Georgia looked bad against Georgia Tech in that win. But before that, Georgia has looked virtually unstoppable.
Yeah, but I would tell you that Drew Bobo may not play in the game.
That's
Their
right. That's
starting
big.
center, their left guard, their left tackle, all banged up. At one point during the Georgia Tech game, they had 3 freshmen on the left side of their line. So they are banged up on their offensive line.
Well, and Gunnar
as well.
Stockton, I mean, they couldn't throw the football. I mean, he was, we talk about Ty the last month. This looked a little off. Stockton looked really, really off on Friday against Georgia Tech. So, I mean, look, and I do think that Vegas factors in that, this is an Alabama team that's won 10 of 11 against Georgia. It's kind of Kirby Smart's kryptonite. It's only the 8th time since 2010 that Alabama's been an underdog. 7 of those 8 have been against Georgia. So, right now, I like Alabama in this game going into it. I don't know how you guys feel about it. I do like Alabama in this game.
1.5 when it opened. Has it moved at all either way?
I've seen it just sitting at 1.5.
Yeah.
1.5.
I saw that last night. I think Furman tweeted it out last night when I was doing the post game with Mick, and I was like, dang. I mean, you could have told me it was 6, and I would have been like, yeah, okay, I believe it. And 1.5, that seemed awful low.
Oh, Alabama technically won the regular season, I believe, right? Didn't they? With all the
Yeah, they're the
tiebreakers?
1 seed. Alabama's the
Yeah.
1 seed.
Yeah.
Yeah. And for whatever that's worth.
Which brings into the conversation again for our show, but for tomorrow. But Nick Saban made it sound like on game day that if Alabama didn't win this thing, there's a case that for them to be out.
Have you seen the odds now?
Yeah.
They actually dropped.
Oh, yeah. They've got a 62% chance of making the college football playoff right now. And that's not if they lose. That is, I mean, obviously, if they win, they're in, but they're factoring in the fact that Georgia's a 1.5-point favorite here. I think it does get a little dicey. I mean, the precedent was out there that you can't lose this SEC championship and not get in, but
Yeah. It's not like you're Duke, though, Ryan. You're the by tiebreakers, you're the SEC regular season champ.
That's right. I again, the people I've talked to at the SEC office are very confident about this. They think 5 teams are in, unless BYU shocks Texas Tech and they're a 2-touchdown dog in that game. They feel like that's the only outcome that could change this. So
yeah, I mean I've said that this last week. If BYU beats Texas Tech, it becomes really dicey at that point. I mean, Texas Tech with 2 losses, could you really drop them out where they sit right now?
Yeah. Here's the thing to watch again on Tuesday night. Do you, even with Tennessee losing to Vandy, do they stay in the top 25? Does Missouri jump back in the top 25? Because you look at the AP poll at the bottom, and it's James Madison at 19, North Texas at 20, Tulane at 21, Navy at 23, Georgia Tech at 24. That's not going to be all in there like that in the college football playoff. So who's filling up the bottom? Arizona will be down at the bottom there. Maybe Georgia Tech hangs in there or not. But, is Missouri and Tennessee still in there helping Alabama's resume? Or is it, more of the Big 12 teams that could help, BYU? Or is it some of the ACCs that could help Miami or Notre Dame there? And is there, if Tennessee and Missouri's in there, and with Alabama being in the SEC championship game, is there a chance they're above Notre Dame? And now that Miami and Notre Dame are so close, almost identical with the way they beat Pittsburgh and stuff, I mean, is there a chance that Alabama and Miami both are ahead of Notre Dame? That would be interesting.
Real quick before we get out of here, Jon Sumrall. We all love him on this show. Everybody knows that. We're big fans of Jon Sumrall. I texted him this morning and says I told him, I said we could ship bourbon to Florida too. He's on his way to Florida. Lance, we're a big fan of him. It's more than just the fact that he's a great interview on our show. The guy can flat out coach. I love his demeanor. I love his approach. Can it work at Florida?
Well, I don't know the politics as much at Florida as we know the politics in Tuscaloosa and Auburn. And there has been dysfunction over the years in Auburn, and I think there's a lot of dysfunction going on right now at Gainesville. But what you need, back to Golesh, is a guy that is no bullshit, and it's his way. And it's like, I'm doing it my way. You guys hired me to do a job. That's what you're going to get with Jon Sumrall. And I don't know what has been going on with that Florida job, because for it to tail off like it has over the last few years, it's pretty amazing. But I think he will quickly get that thing dialed right back in the right direction. I think it is a home run hire for the Florida Gators.
Let me ask you, though, if you had a choice between Sumrall and Lincoln Riley, like one report says it was, that Lincoln Riley's agent was trying to get him in the mix and Scott Strickland was not interested, according to that one report. Would you have rather had Lincoln Riley or Jon Sumrall?
I would want to know who Sumrall's offensive coordinator is. But yeah, I think you could make an argument for Sumrall. I know that's crazy, but he's been a head coach 4 years, and 3 of those years he's won double-digit games. And I love his demeanor. I think the players absolutely love him, and he's just a guy that's just a rock of a foundation guy. There was somebody, I'm not going to name names, but they threw out this crazy scenario before all these pieces fell into place about Lincoln Riley taking Penn State, was it?
Yeah, it was Lincoln Riley to Penn State, DeBoer to USC, and
Kiffin to Alabama.
And Kiffin to Bama.
Yeah, I was like, I hate that for Bama fans, but I would take that scenario tomorrow. I'll trade Lane Kiffin for Kalen DeBoer for Lincoln Riley.
Yeah, I really do think Alabama is a well-coached football team when you watch them, and I know the offense. What was it? 122 yards passing. There's something that's not clicking with Ty Simpson and the receivers right now. Maybe he's banged up a little bit. A couple of times I thought he got concussed last night, but I love the schemes and I love the attitude that they came out with in that place. They didn't let the environment overwhelm them and everything. I'm really impressed with what Kalen DeBoer and his staff's able to put together. So I don't blame you for that situation. When I heard that same thing, Lance, and I was like, you're telling me that a guy at USC is going to leave that job to go to Penn State? And there's never been a time in my lifetime, as good of a reputation Penn State is, that you ever leave USC for Penn State. I just can't imagine how hard it is to recruit at Penn State.
It's just a different world. I mean, did we ever think we'd live in a world where a lot of people believed Ole Miss was the better location for Lane to stay at than to take the LSU job?
That's crazy.
Hey, or 2-point spread questions on the Iron Bowl. I've just got to ask you guys. So 4th and 2 from the 6, y'all would have gone for it.
100%. I was thinking it when
and that had nothing to do with the point spread. I mean, I wanted him to kick, but I would have kicked.
You mean the touchdown to Isaiah that won the game?
Yeah. So when they completed the second down pass to Bernard, and that made it 3rd and 2, I thought if they don't get a pre-snap penalty, which they're good at doing, if they don't get a pre-snap penalty, this is 4-down territory. I mean, that's the first thing I thought. I don't know why I thought that immediately. It was the first thing I thought.
Yeah, but I think I would have kicked it because you get beat by 4, then it's damn, the defense let us down, but we had that lead late on that final possession. You go for it, don't get it. They go down and get 3. I mean, the fan base was already going to flip if they would have lost that game. I can't even imagine in that scenario. But then the other thing I was going to ask you guys, when they hold them there and it's, 4th and 4, 4th and 5, when they punt with 38 seconds left, I thought for sure they'd run it out the back of the end zone.
I thought the same thing. Yeah. I don't know.
Lane Kiffin would have.
I thought the same thing, Dunaway, and I know that would have been a point spread changer right there. But you had 30 seconds. You could run probably 8 to 10 seconds off the clock doing that. The only thing about that, Jim, is it puts it under 7, and that makes you nervous.
Yeah, Mark Stoops may have, depending. Whether he wanted to or not. I would say this though. I would have kicked it because I don't have the gravitas that Kalen DeBoer has. We talked all week long on the show about how they're comfortable going for it on 4th down, and they did it a couple of times. But how about that first kick from Connor Talty from 45 yards in that atmosphere?
I couldn't believe he ran him out there.
I couldn't believe it either. No.
And he nailed it, man.
I saw they show, it was just the shot showed Alabama's players start running off. I was like, my God, they're going to punt from here? And then Fowler says, here comes Connor Talty. I was like, you got to be kidding me.
But boy, he drilled it. 2-2 on the field goals, 3 for 3 on the extra points, and that could be huge in this game coming up this weekend.
Yeah. I was in the corner, the Alabama side corner of the end zone. Todd Eagle, Hop from Fox 6, Todd Eagle from 13, and there was one other guy, I think Big Rob from 42, were all in that corner. And I said, as they were lining up, I said, I'll keep the ball from hitting you guys just in case. And everybody laughed because I was talking about how bad Talty was about to kick this one. And then he nailed it, and we all had a good chuckle about him not missing the kick that everyone thought he was going to miss.
Yeah, Jason is asking for Alex Golish content. Jason, we are about to end this stream, and if you'll just start it right over, the first 15 minutes are all about Alex Golish, give or take a few minutes. I didn't really time it.
Yeah.
Ryan Silverfield does nothing for me. So I I mean, look, you're Arkansas. I know you got to hire somebody.
Short
I
straw.
mean, yeah. Huh?
I said they drew the short straw.
They did. Somebody was going to have the last chair, right?
Yeah, I think they thought they had Golesh. I really do.
They did. They did earlier in the week, I think. Yeah. I mean, if you think Golish is a good hire, and many people do, you got to credit John Cohen for flipping that, because I think he was headed to Arkansas earlier this week.
Well, this is where Florida did a really good decision, and obviously they knew they were out of the Lane Kiffin sweepstakes, but when they shut that down immediately and 100% put the full court press on Sumrall, that's where everything flipped.
Yeah, and what's key with that one is David Caldwell, according to On3, is leaving the Eagles to go and team up with Sumrall in Gainesville to be his general manager, his front office guy.
Wow.
So a well-respected guy. Who's the great general manager who does all the great deals with the Eagles?
Howie Roseman.
Roseman. Yeah.
Yeah, this is one of his top assistants. So he's taking that mentality that Howie has put together, that roster in Philadelphia, and heading to Gainesville to do that. So that means, I guess, they will target all Georgia Bulldogs in the portal. Is that's their
probably? Yeah,
the Eagles, right?
That's the way that would work.
Not a bad way to go.
Yeah, it's a good strategy. Jonathan Smith out at Michigan State. Lance, I know you really liked him. I did too. The guy did a good job at Oregon State. It just did not click there at Michigan State.
And that's one of those, like, if you're Arkansas, Ryan Silverfield, Jonathan Smith.
Yeah,
Jonathan Smith will be fine. He'll land on his feet, and I wouldn't be so well. Jed Fish is pissed about this Florida situation, but I was going to say Jonathan Smith, although he was at Oregon State, he was with Chris Peterson as his OC for a while at Washington, so that would be something to look at if that job ever came open.
Our friends at Kentucky Sports Radio saying keep an eye on Mark Stoops, that there are talks behind the scenes. It's, I think, $37.5 million. Stoops was asked after getting they just got their eyes beat in by Louisville. Asked if he would walk away, and he laughed at the question, which it is the dumbest question ever. He's not going to walk away from $37 million. What kind of idiot asks that question? He said he's not walking away, but apparently there are talks behind the scenes to try to cough up the $37 million to get rid of Mark Stoops. So
yeah, your problem is, your fan base now. They're looking around. They're like, everybody is making these changes when it's not working. We've seen enough of Mark Stoops, and I know I'm different, Brown, than you are on Mark Stoops, but this year and last year have been really bad looks. And yesterday was a terrible look against your in-state rivals. So I think fans they've had it, and they're like, other teams can pay this buyout. We need to be able to pay this buyout.
Well, they got a 7-point win at Jordan-Hare Stadium, just like Alabama did.
They did. They did. They also didn't lose by $1 billion to Vandy and Louisville. Alabama did.
I would tell you, they're not suggesting that Stoops is in the mix at Michigan State, though, right?
No. Well, I don't guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm just saying Kentucky Sports Radio is saying keep an eye on this, that they're bubbling.
Interesting. I mean, what Michigan State with all their NIL money, I wonder where they go.
I think they will go.
The Americans out of coaches, I think, right?
Yeah, if you had a modicum of success in the American, today was your day, man.
I think Michigan State goes back Big Ten. They went away from it, going, out West Coast with Jonathan Smith. It obviously didn't work out. So Michigan State can get a good coach. Now, the last two haven't worked, but we'll see what happens there.
Lance, do you remember your crazy scenario over-under for coaching changes in the SEC this year? You brought it up a couple weeks ago, just randomly on the show.
I think it was 7 or 8. It was a lot.
I mean, we're at 5.
Yeah.
And if Stoops goes, it's at 6. I mean, I don't know that. I don't know. There's another one. That's right. Zach says in the chat room, Pat Fitzgerald. I've seen his name mentioned at Michigan State.
Oh, wow. Good hire.
No, that'd be a really good hire.
I think he's also in the mix at Penn State.
Interesting. Oh, he would want to beat the brakes off Northwestern. He would. Hey, give us a thumbs up. We appreciate you watching us. If you're on YouTube, make sure you subscribe, set your alerts so you know when we're live, which will be tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock, Dunaway and Luganville. With Monday Morning Live, we're back with you 9 to noon. We'll have Alex Golish introductory news conference just after that, so you can catch all of that, but set your alerts so you know when we're live. If you're on social media, make sure you follow us and share us. We appreciate you doing that, and always support everything we do. We appreciate you when you do that. All right, we'll see you tomorrow morning. Thanks for joining us for a little Sunday afternoon chat. Tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. Monday Morning Live, 9 a.m. with the next round. We'll see you there.